Hello there. I'm a 43-year-old man who runs a business. I was born into a humble family and studied fervently, working my way up from scratch. While I wouldn't say I've had a meteoric rise to success, I am quite content and feel fulfilled with the life I've carved out. Even in the midst of my relatively tranquil existence, there's a significant chapter of my life that is hard to forget. The saga of finding a partner. Please bear with me as I recount the tale of the woman who left such an indelible mark on my life. Growing up, it was just me and my mom. When I was around 2, my parents divorced after my dad had an affair. Following their separation, my mother single-handedly took up the mantle of both parents, raising me with all the love and care she could muster. She juggled multiple jobs, from school crossing guard to janitor at an office building, every day of her life marked with the adhesive residue of band. AIDS covering her aching body. Seeing her struggle made me sympathetic, while our circumstances instilled in me a desperate yearning to escape poverty. From a young age, I believed that the only way to achieve this was through education. And so, with that singular focus, I devoted myself relentlessly to my studies. As a result, I earned a place at one of the most prestigious universities in the country. It felt surreal, like a dream come true. But I knew this was just the beginning, and that I had to put in even more effort than I had during my school years. I was driven by my desire to provide a comfortable life for my mother and a yearning to leave our poverty stricken past behind. After surviving the rigors of university and completing my military service, I entered the late stages of my 20s and landed a job at a Wall Street brokerage, an industry reputed for its high earnings. The work didn't faze me. After all, I'd spent my entire life relying on my intellect, and my job was no different. Leaning on my brain power, I rapidly climbed the corporate ladder. As a result, by the tail end of my 20s, I was earning well into 6 figures. In my 30s, my income kept growing, reaching over $500,000 by the time I hit 40. As a result of my relentless forward drive, I managed to amass quite a fortune. I was able to buy a beautiful house for my mother and set aside a comfortable nest egg for her retirement. I, too, lived comfortably in a high-end leased apartment and drove a luxury car. My work became second nature, and I hardly experienced any job related stress. However, I realized that in my relentless pursuit of success and financial stability, I had neglected other aspects of my life. I had few friends, and despite nearing 40, I had only dated one woman in my life. My mother, grateful for my devotion to her, often pushed me towards marriage. She longed to witness her only son's wedding, asserting it was the true way to honor her. Seeing her son single at 40 pained her, and she expressed hope that I would soon meet someone worthy. Truth be told, I desired marriage just as much as she did, yearning for a worthy companion in my life. However, being engrossed in academics and work, I seldom crossed paths with women. That was until a female co-worker from the stock brokerage I worked at suggested a blind date. She spoke of a woman educated at an Ivy League university, worked in a Fortune 500 company, but currently taking a break due to health issues. Intrigued, I agreed to meet her. My heart pounded at the prospect of meeting a woman after so long, but I was determined to be composed. Although I wasn't extraordinarily handsome, I was confident about my diligence and capabilities. I met her, and she was stunning. I understood what it meant to fall in love at first sight. Her beauty set my heart racing, and I struggled to keep calm. But beauty without substance held no appeal, so I engaged her in conversation to gauge her character. Much to my relief, she was not only beautiful but also humble and attentive. Despite our 4-year age difference, we clicked instantly. I felt as though I had found my soulmate. When I asked for a second date, she agreed, hinting that she too felt a connection. Thus began our relationship, which flourished over the next 10 months. My girlfriend never gave me any cause for disappointment. She was also adored by my mother, who saw her as the perfect daughter-in-law. This encouraged me to propose to her when I turned 41, to which she joyfully agreed. Our engagement was blissful. We held our wedding ceremony soon after and went for our honeymoon. Even then, it felt surreal, sharing a home and a bed with my beautiful wife. The happiness that overwhelmed me was indescribable. The first month of our marriage was absolute bliss. However, I grew concerned that she spent all her time at home, making no efforts to find a job. I felt her talents were going to waste. "Honey, don't you think you should look for a job? You mentioned starting work after the wedding. Or would you prefer to live off the money I earn?" I asked her one day. "Can't I do that? Must I really work? Besides, I have you. I consider marrying you as the greatest achievement of my life. I don't have any other ambitions. I want to be a housewife, give birth to your children, and be the best wife to you," she responded. Relieved, I agreed to her wishes. However, she requested control of my bank accounts, or at least a credit card. Concerned about the numerous transactions due to my job, I declined, instead offering to provide a generous allowance and a credit card. She agreed, promising to manage our household expenses. I handed over the credit card without a second thought, not realizing that this small action would soon become a root of numerous problems. The month had rolled around again, bringing with it the dreaded credit card statement. The numbers on the page swam before my eyes, coalescing into a figure that made me gasp. $70,000. My wife had blown through 70 grand in a month, and it certainly wasn't all on groceries or household essentials. No, most of it went toward her never-ending vanity parade. I didn't get it. Didn't understand how anyone could be so frivolous. "Sweetheart, this credit card bill, it's through the roof. We've got to cut back," I pleaded. Her only response was a dismissive shrug. "It's my first month." "I didn't even use it that much," she insisted, in that maddeningly nonchalant tone. "Besides, I was careful." "Careful?" I spluttered. "You think dropping 70 grand in a month is being careful? That's more than most people's yearly salary." "It's not even 100,000, she sniffed. Unfazed. The big deal, I tried to explain, was that spending $70,000 in a single month was ludicrously excessive. I suggested that she try to limit herself to around $25,000, a figure that still seemed astronomically high to me. But my wife balked at this. "Who do you think I am, pinching pennies like that?" she sneered, refusing to cut back. Though I had a good income, I was not accustomed to such wastefulness, and I struggled to understand her mindset. She defended her spending as completely normal, even going so far as to try to school me on why it was justified. "Why should I save? You earn well enough," she retorted. "We're a married couple. If you didn't want me to spend money, you shouldn't have married me. I never knew you were so stingy." Stingy. I was taken aback. "I'm not being stingy. I just think we're overspending. Can't we compromise and bring it down to, say, $40,000 a month? We have to plan for the future, maybe even a baby." With a roll of her eyes, she finally agreed. "Fine. I'll spend less, but just because you're being a tightwad." We didn't fight for a while after that, and I foolishly believed things might be changing. But the next time she went shopping, she maxed out the $100,000 credit limit I'd reluctantly agreed to, and then she had the audacity to ask for an increase. I refused, of course, and told her I was going to lower her credit limit. Despite my high income, There was no way we could save if she kept spending like this. She grumbled, but for a while, she didn't use her card. I thought maybe my words had sunk in, that she was beginning to understand the value of money. But then she went shopping again, maxed out her card, and withdrew an extra $10,000 in cash. My wife's frugal facade before our marriage had clearly been an illusion. I confronted her, asking why she was spending so recklessly. To my disbelief, she turned the tables on me. "You make $500,000 a month," she spat, her face contorted with contempt. "What's a measly 100,000 to you? Marrying a woman like me comes with a price. Did you think you were marrying just any woman? I could have had any rich man I wanted. I cut him down for you, and this is the thanks I get. You should be grateful to be with a woman like me." A deep sense of dread and disbelief washed over me. My perfect marriage was turning out to be anything but. "Thanks," I said, a heavy dose of sarcasm lining my words. "I really appreciate that a fine, beautiful woman like you agreed to marry an average Joe like me. But we can't keep living like this. I didn't grow up with a silver spoon in my mouth, and I can't sit idly by while we're living so lavishly. Give me your credit cards. From now on, I'll manage our finances." "But," she stammered, her lips forming a perfect pout. "No buts," I replied with a firm resolve. "I can't let us go down this path drowning in debt. It'll help both of us." Her eyes turned icy, lips pressed into a thin line. She tossed the cards onto the table and stormed off without uttering a word. It was the last meaningful conversation we had for days. Determined to break her spendthrift habits, I kept my distance and occupied the guest bedroom. 2 weeks passed in this stubborn silence. Then, one night, she enticed me. Lying on the living room couch, she stretched like a cat and whispered, "It's been a while since we've shared a bed. Wasn't it lonely without me?" I won't lie, it was. Nights were cold and mornings were colder. Yes, it was lonely and very hard, I admitted, swallowing my pride. "Thanks, babe. Shall we go to bed?" She beamed at me. "Before that, can you give me one of the credit cards back? There's something I've been dying to buy, and it's been making me restless." I looked at her, incredulous. "Are you telling me you're seducing me just to get your credit card back? Seriously?" "No," she exclaimed, eyes wide in feigned innocence. "I just thought we could make peace. And by the way, I could use the card. Are you treating me like a gold digger now?" Dejected, she retreated to our bedroom. I held firm, determined to correct her ways, though the longing for her was growing unbearable each night. Finally, after enduring many lonely nights, I caved in and slipped into our bedroom. She took me into her arms without a word, and that night we made love until dawn. But soon after, she began to ask for money again. That was nice, wasn't it? "Now, could you give me some spending money? Just 10 grand would do for a designer bag. You're asking for money after we made love?" I said, disbelief plain on my face. "Who do you think you are? Some kind of call girl?" She lashed out at me, anger flaring in her eyes. "Just because I ask for a bag doesn't mean you can treat me like a call girl. Forget it. I don't want anything from a clueless man like you." In just 6 months of marriage, she had spent tens of thousands of dollars, a figure that sent shivers down my spine. But I decided to step back, bite my tongue, and endure. After all, she was my wife, my lifelong partner. But another problem arose when we approached our first anniversary. My company announced a major layoff. As I was not selected for relocation, I was facing impending unemployment. I had already warned my wife, hoping she would prepare herself. On my last day at work, I returned home to find her waiting for me with a stern face. "I can't live with a man who can't earn money," she declared. "I've decided to divorce you. You will not get much in alimony, not more than 30 of what you've earned. Let's not drag this into court. Make it easy for both of us." I wasn't surprised by her decision. I had been expecting this, needing to see how she would react when I hit rock bottom. That's why I hadn't told her that I had already found another job before my layoff. I pulled out my new business card and showed it to my wife. "Look at this, honey. It's my new business card. I've set up a new office for a securities firm. I'm the head honcho. Some of my capable juniors from my previous job are already on board. Seems like you're not that impacted by your job loss, huh?" she retorted. "Not at all. With this new office, things have improved. Anyway, I can't afford to give you 30 in divorce settlements. We've only been married a year. That's too steep. Let's get lawyers and settle this in court." "Fine by me," she said, tearing up the divorce papers in her hands. "I was just joking with you. Today is April Fool's Day, you big dummy. Did you really think I was going to divorce you?" "Your eyes looked serious a moment ago," I pointed out, "and you served me divorce papers on the day I lost my job. You expect me to take that as a joke? That's low." I watched as she began to cry. "That's so unfair. I was just joking because it's April Fool's Day and you react like this. I'm sorry. My joke was too harsh. I have no intention of divorcing you. I plan on being your wife till the day I die. That's the honest truth. I promise I won't joke like this again. Please let it go, joke. Let it go just for today. How am I supposed to deal with you? All right, I'll let it go this time. But if you ever wave a divorce paper in my face again, it won't be funny. Don't pull a stunt like that ever again." "Understood. Unless I go insane, I won't ever use divorce papers as a joke again." My wife's joke had really thrown me for a loop, but I decided to let it go. We had only been married a year. A time of learning to trust one another would surely come. But my situation had improved. Or so I thought. My wife, free of restrictions, began spending money like water. She went shopping, drank with friends, and bought lavish gifts for her family. I chose not to interfere with her spending habits, hoping that she would change over time, but she never did. If only she was as good at housekeeping and being a supportive wife as she was at spending money. She would sleep in until late, even as I woke up at 6 a.m. to prepare for work. For breakfast, we had take-out, and for dinner, she'd order delivery. When I mentioned how much I missed homemade meals, she hired a housekeeper. Her daily routine consisted of lying on the couch, watching TV, and playing on her phone. I tried to stay positive, but eventually, I just stopped paying her any attention. Her excessive spending and lazy lifestyle frustrated me. One day, I couldn't take it anymore. "Honey, you can't just stay at home like this. Why don't you work at my friend's company? Just 4 hours a day. You can make some pocket money. You graduated from a prestigious university. The work will be a breeze." "I have no intention of working," she replied. "It's not hard work, honey. You'll just be out in society, interacting with people. Besides, many of your fellow alumni work there. Think of it as hanging out with friends while moving around a bit." "I have something to tell you," she suddenly said. "Actually, I only have a high school diploma. I never even set foot in a college." I was shocked. "Are you serious? Or is this another joke?" I asked, feeling sick. She looked at me, her expression serious. "I'm not joking. I really only graduated high school. I worked at a hair salon for a few years, and that's it. Why are you so surprised? Is it really that important to have a college degree?" "It's not about the degree. It's the fact that you lied," I answered. Upset, You told me you went to a prestigious university and worked for a big company. That was just to reel you in. Saying I graduated from a prestigious university made me sound more appealing, so I lied. I was speechless. I looked at my wife, who was munching on snacks while watching TV. Are there any other lies you've told me? I'm not sure, she replied nonchalantly. If I remember any, I'll let you know. There was nothing I could do. I had chosen her as my wife. Being mad at her wouldn't change anything. After a few days of stress, I decided to forget about it and go on with my life. So our mundane life continued. My wife kept splurging and acting like a trophy wife. Until one day, I noticed a receipt from a local diner. It showed that she had spent $2,000 there. I was puzzled. How on earth did you manage to spend $2,000 at a local diner? I asked her. Honey, you spent $2,000 at the hot dog joint. This seems a bit strange. What's so strange about it? I hosted my high school reunion at the hot dog joint and picked up the tab. They found out that I'm the wife of a successful Wall Street broker, so everyone started ordering more and even sang songs for me. I couldn't help but pick up the bill. Don't tell me you're mad over a measly $2,000. I thought you'd berate me, but I just sighed and told you you did a good job. Yeah, you did a good job. As long as you had a good time, it's fine. It's not like you bought them diamonds or anything, you just bought them a meal. Why should I be upset? You've really changed since the days you used to make a fuss over birthday gifts. Thanks, bro. Just continue being understanding like this. I replied, even though inside I felt different. My mind was racing. While I was at work, I decided to look into my wife's activities. Weeks passed by, and one day I came home to my wife. Her face contorted as she shoved divorce papers in my face. You're a joke. I stopped by your office today and it was closed. The security guard told me you've gone bankrupt. Is that why you've been acting rich? You came to my office. What for? Why does that matter? What's important is that you're going bankrupt. Here, take this. I can't live with a man who can't make money. I've stamped my seal on the divorce papers. Hand over half the alimony. I accepted the divorce papers and responded, This isn't an April Fool's joke, right? You're not joking. Do I look like I'm joking right now? I can't live with a pretentious man like you. You act like a successful broker, and now you're a jobless loser. I can't live a day with a loser who can't make money. Stamp your seal if you don't want to give me your money. I'll divorce you on the condition that you leave without a single penny. What? Leave without a penny. Are you delusional, Maria? I've lived with a beautiful and popular woman like you for 1.5 years. I should be grateful and cough up the alimony. If you don't give it to me as I ask, I'll take you to court and strip you of all your wealth. I responded, unfazed. I don't want to live with you either, so I'm thinking of divorcing too. But honey, when I give you a chance, don't take a penny in divorce. I'm giving you a chance now. You better think about it before you respond. Chance, you're nuts. I absolutely need the alimony. If you don't want to give it, just know that I'll send the divorce papers. Got it? If there's a flaw in my life, it's that I married you. Damn. I wonder if I can remarry a bachelor with the stigma of being a divorcee. You're amazing. Already thinking of remarrying. Of course, a woman as beautiful as you should live comfortably under a rich husband. And even if the stigma of being a divorcee sticks, there will be a lot of bachelors who would run towards me. Enough? It's none of your business. See you in court. Okay, I understand. But take all your stuff. Leave anything bought with my money. You think you should take things when you're the one who spent money. You won't want anything you bought, right? Just leave with your precious body. I'll sell the luxury items you left behind as secondhand and prepare for alimony. Ah, You're so considerate. I'm very thankful. So hurry up and leave. I'll see you in court, and that's the end. Don't ever show up here again." I was so fed up with my wife that I didn't even watch her kick the door open and leave. I went into my room and received the divorce papers from my wife. The amount of alimony she asked for was a whopping $500,000. I couldn't understand what she did while married to me to demand such a huge amount of money. Anyway, when we go to court, the judge will decide, so I wasn't worried and hired a lawyer. 4 weeks later, we ended up in family court. My wife looked at me confidently, as if she was looking down on me. "I'm going to make you regret not agreeing to a mutual divorce. I'm going to take everything I can get." "Oh, I'm so scared." "Honey, I'm going to educate you too. I know everything you've done behind my back. Just wait and see." At my words, my wife's face went pale. "You know everything about me." "What have I done wrong?" "You're just bluffing. Think about it." Stop talking, the trial is starting. Soon, the judge read my wife's statement and asked if she really wanted a divorce. My wife responded with a bright smile, "Of course I do." Then, when my lawyer submitted various documents and photos, the judge was utterly surprised. The truth was, I found it strange that I had a charge of $1,800 at a sausage soup joint. So I hired a private investigator to look into my wife's activities. It turns out, she had been using my credit card for her affairs. At the soup place, she charged $1,800 and received $1,500 cash back. A classic credit card fraud. She used this method to gather cash and bought all sorts of gifts for her lover. Moreover, when my mother-in-law was sick, my wife took some money, supposedly for her mother's medical expenses, but in reality she bought a car for her lover. The private investigator I hired monitored my wife for a week, took photos of her affairs, documented the credit card fraud, and even recorded her insulting me in front of her lover. The judge saw all the evidence my lawyer submitted, and my wife's face turned green. "I think I've made a mistake," she said, changing her tune. "I don't want to divorce my husband. Let's not divorce, honey. I was wrong. I was too cruel to suggest divorce just because you're unemployed." "What are you talking about? Unemployment? You thought my office went bankrupt, didn't you? But guess what? Business picked up so much that I moved my office to Manhattan. We have a large client base there, and we've expanded significantly, employing over 20 people. Here, take my new business card." I handed her a card embossed with 14 gold and said softly, "You're done, honey. I know everything you've done, you wretch. Prepare for a fall. Can't you forgive me just once? The other guy was just a fling, and I ended it a while ago. As far as I know, you came out of his house just this morning. Don't try hard, honey. You're done." As we whispered among ourselves, the judge asked loudly, "So, are you divorcing or not?" And I replied, "Absolutely." Ultimately, my wife was deemed at fault for the divorce. She was ordered to pay a hefty alimony for adultery, failing to provide for the family, and inciting conflict due to her extravagance. As I walked out of the court laughing, my wife rushed toward me, desperately, like a puppy needing to relieve itself. "Where do you think I'm going to get that kind of money? How will I pay such a hefty alimony? Hey, why the change of attitude? Didn't I say I wouldn't take a penny and to just sign the divorce papers? I gave you a chance, and you rejected it. So, we ended up here? I only cheated once, so you do it once too. Then we'll be even and can live together. I can't believe what you're suggesting. The lengths you'll go when you're desperate. We're divorced, and I won't be party to such a dirty deal. So, just leave. But can't you see? I'll do whatever you want. If 1 year of sexual favors is not enough, I'll do it for 2 years, or even 3. Are you out of your mind? I don't even want to touch you. I feel disgusted just looking at your face. Stop your nonsense and leave. Finally, she pleaded, I don't have anything. Take whatever you want from me instead of the alimony. I'm not taking anything but money, I said firmly. And with that, I dismissed her desperate pleas and moved on with my life. In response, my wife was persistently begging and camping out in our home. No matter how much I yelled at her to leave, it was of no use. So I ended up calling the police. I explained everything from start to finish, requesting they remove her from my house. And so, my wife was expelled by the force of the law, never to return to my home again. I filed a lawsuit against her lover for damages. I didn't know who he was, but he was just like her, so I drafted a complaint and sent it right away. He claimed he didn't know my wife was married when they were together, but it was exposed in their text conversations that they had discussed me. Therefore, he was obliged to pay all the compensation I demanded. The lover ended up paying the settlement, breaking up with my wife, and leaving. A few months went by, and I still didn't receive the alimony from my wife. I sent a formal notice through my attorney. If she didn't hand over the alimony promptly, I would make sure she ended up behind bars, I wrote as a warning. Then, within a week, I received all the alimony I had demanded. It turned out my wife, having no money, took out a loan to repay the alimony. The last I heard, she was working at a factory, her wages being garnished, struggling with debt. Afterwards, I quietly continued to run my brokerage firm. I was then introduced to a woman. She was not exceptionally beautiful, but she had a heart that shone brightly. Moreover, she was an Ivy League graduate working for a prestigious corporation. I remarried after a year-long courtship with her. Even after marriage, my new wife did not quit her job. She insisted that one should work to live, doing her best every day. We were blessed with a child. This year, at the age of 43, my wife showed me the sonogram, announcing she was pregnant. We were both in our 40s and had not been expecting a second child. The news of the pregnancy moved me to tears. Several months passed, and one day, a high-profile client visited our office. He was a businessman who had been successful enough to appear in online newspapers, and he wanted to deposit several $100 million with me. It was an opportunity for my company to grow several times its size. In order not to lose the client, I presented a document to prove my capabilities. The client was satisfied and said he would deposit a large amount of money with me. He expressed a desire to have a drink. I respected that and suggested a high-end sushi restaurant, but the client expressed interest in a room salon, a type of bar with private rooms. Oh, a gentleman's club. I hesitated. However, as a married man, and with my wife pregnant, I haven't ever set foot in such a place. It might be challenging for me. What? Really? The client seemed surprised. You're such a good guy. And here I am about to deposit hundreds of millions and you can't take me to a gentleman's club. Well, I initially refused, feeling guilty towards my wife. But the allure of the large investment was hard to resist. Therefore, I decided to swallow my qualms and I escorted the client to the gentleman's club. At first, I found myself walking into a basement bar in the heart of New York City. With a nod from the maitre d', I was ushered into the largest private room in the place. I placed an order for whiskey and some finger food to nibble on. Soon, a pair of waitresses entered the room, both striking women, albeit a bit on the older side. It was a relief to see that they appeared to be engaging with the patrons. However, as one of the women moved to sit beside me, I realized I knew her. She was my ex-wife. I had no idea why she was here, but the situation was undeniably awkward and distressing. Regardless of her surprise, she pretended not to know me in front of the patrons. After a few shots and a bit of a buzz, one of the patrons excused himself to the restroom. At that moment, my ex-wife lit a cigarette and spoke up. "Long time no see, huh? I thought you were a good boy, but turns out you're just as sly as the rest of them. I didn't come here willingly. You know, it's because of the customers. So, you're married, huh? I saw a picture of an unattractive woman on your phone's wallpaper. Guess you realize the kind of woman you can attract after breaking up with me, huh? Oh, come off it. The woman you're referring to is incomparable to you in every way. And let me ask you, do you have nothing better to do than to work in a bar? It's not surprising considering your past, but still, I never thought you'd sink this low. Is it because of the alimony you owe me? Yeah. I'm in debt because of the money I borrowed to pay your alimony. The loan sharks are always breathing down my neck for their money. If you hadn't ruined my life, I wouldn't be here. You're blaming me for your work. Isn't the only thing you're good at seducing men and wrapping them around your little finger? Seems to suit you quite well. My ex-wife glared at me, then changed her approach, draping her arm over my shoulder. Hey, I still owe over $100,000. Could you pay it for me? I want to quit this job. If you pay my debt, I'll be your office wife for a year. What nonsense is that? You tried to settle the alimony with sex during our divorce, and now you're offering to be an office wife in exchange for money. You're absolutely hopeless. I don't know how I ended up marrying you. After a verbal battering, she said, Okay. I get it. But if I quit this job without any compensation, I can't make a living. Oh, I know. I'll call the waiter. As if he had been waiting for her signal, the waiter entered the room immediately. I ordered him to escort her out, accusing her of attempting to swindle money from the customers. As she was dragged out, she pleaded, Hey, at least give me the payment for entertaining you for 30 minutes. I won't leave without it. I sighed heavily, opened my wallet, and handed her a $50 bill. You demanded $500,000 in alimony from me. Here's $50. It's more than you deserve. Grudgingly, she accepted it and left, grumbling under her breath about how she'd always be available to be my office wife. The following day, the patron I entertained invested $25 million with me, setting me up for a great success. Later, I confessed to my current wife about my encounter with my ex-wife at the bar, explaining I had been there to secure a contract with the client. She understood and was relieved that nothing untoward had occurred. Fast forward a few months, we had a beautiful baby girl. And life couldn't have been happier. However, fate had a cruel twist in store. I encountered my ex-wife again at a villa where my wife volunteered. It was a place for single mothers, and we were there to deliver essential supplies. Among the young mothers, I noticed a woman with graying hair sitting in a corner. It was my ex-wife. But there was something wrong with her. Her eyes had a vacant stare, a sign of mental breakdown. Looking into his eyes as he spoke, it was as if he was wrestling with some intellectual disability. Hey, mister, I'm starving. Could you buy me a slice of pizza? I pointed toward a food pantry nearby and said, There's food over there. Help yourself. Thank you, mister. But, his gaze was distant. You look familiar. How do I come across to you? What an odd question, I thought. But before I could ask what he meant, he blurted out, Ever thought about taking me in? If you become my dad, I'll make sure every night is a fun one. It was bizarre, almost like a warped sales pitch. Kid, are you out of your mind? I retorted, aghast. How about you quit talking like that and act your age? His rebuttal was even more astonishing, mister. Just don't leave. I'm really good at that. Don't you find me attractive? I lost my patience. Get lost, you deluded kid. Just then, The wails of my ex-wife's child allowed me a chance to escape the uncomfortable conversation. My current wife later revealed the boy's heartbreaking backstory. He was born out of a liaison in a seedy lounge. The identity of his father was unknown, and his mother, unable to hold her job while pregnant, was cast aside by the same lounge. She had nowhere to go after giving birth and wound up in a halfway house for single mothers. It was around then that her mental health began to deteriorate. I never told my wife that the boy's mother was my ex. What good would it do? So I decided to let it be. My ex ended up sending the boy for adoption and lived alone in a shelter. I guess you could say that she had paid her dues in the most distasteful of manners. This is where her story, however sordid and convoluted, reaches its conclusion. While this may sound like a piece of fiction, I assure you, it's all true. At times, I wonder if my quest for vengeance went too far. But then again, I firmly believe in karma. So please withhold judgment and pray for the well-being of my family. Thank you for lending me your ear. Take care, everyone.